Welcome to I Feel Like.
Your ultimate guide to navigating life as a young adult.
We're your hosts,
Anna,
Dan,
and Evan.
And we're here to share our experiences and provide advice on everything from surviving college and forming relationships,
the situational etiquette, and maintaining a social life.
I feel like it's time to start the podcast. Hi, welcome to this week's episode where today we're going to be talking about living with roommates, which is something I'm sure that if you're not currently doing, that you're gonna have to do eventually. So we'll talk a little bit about some unspoken rules, some boundaries, and we'll give a little bit through our own experiences of what we've learned to do.
Yes, so living with roommates, definitely something we've all experienced as broke college students.
Mhm.
I think living with roommates can either be great and really fun or a complete nightmare, depending on, I guess, how it's handled and just the people involved. I think one of the biggest ways to ensure the most optimal situation is definitely good communication. I cannot stress that enough. Good communication is the key to success.
Even before becoming roommates, get to know the person beforehand. Know who you're living with. Make sure you want to live with them.
Yeah, I guess it depends. In some situations, you can kind of vet your roommates and see if you'd be a good match. But in college, when you're assigned your freshman roommate, you don't always get the choice,
I
So
guess. But
sometimes it's a possibility, but I guess a lot of colleges, you have to take some survey about your
yeah,
habits.
just
Be
be
honest
honest
on
on
that
that.
survey.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I know nobody wants to admit when it asks how messy are you?
Mhm.
I don't want to be yo, yeah, I'm a slob, because I don't
Yeah.
want people to think bad of
But
me.
no one's
But
gonna see that. It's just gonna help you get
right.
someone that you would actually work with.
Yeah, it's better to just be honest than to lie and then have issues.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because you're living with people, especially during a college year for 9+ months.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing those things, sure, you could be able to live with someone for maybe 2 months who you thought could be ideal. But once you get through those 7 more months with living with these people that you maybe aren't necessarily correlated with your actual wants in terms of a roommate, then I think that's where it gets a little dicey, if you will.
And college dorm rooms are small, so you are trapped with that person and there's nowhere to hide.
Yes.
I guess that's a good point where if you're living after college with a roommate, that's pretty different from college. Because at least you'll have your own room probably and everything. But still.
Yeah, and you do get more of a say over how many other roommates you would want, or are we going to share bedrooms, have separate bedrooms, and you can pick do we want more a townhome where it's different levels, or an apartment?
It's definitely different with kitchens and bathrooms, the whole situation's different.
Yeah, and I think by the time also you get to that level of choosing what you want, by then you've already kind of figured out kind of how you like to live, because you're probably in your second, third, maybe even fourth or plus years of college or whatever. And at that point, you've really kind of figured out, oh, this is who I am as a person who has my own apartment, house, whatever. And this is the people that I would like to ideally live with.
As important as communication is with your roommate or roommates, plural, I definitely think it's hard. I know maybe I'm just not a person who likes confrontation, but I feel at least for me, it's hard to speak up and say something, especially if you're not necessarily best friends with someone. I was always kind of scared to express if maybe I didn't like something, or maybe I wanted to change something, but I was just kind of too scared to say something because I didn't want to rock the boat, or I didn't want to create a problem when things were decently okay, or I didn't want to seem annoying and make the person not like me.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely maybe first first general piece of advice that I can say would be, if you have a problem with a roommate, talk about it as soon as you notice it. Don't wait for it to linger, because if it kind of goes on for a while and you never bring it up or anything, there's a high chance that when you do finally bring it up, it'll be you more like boiling over and being a lot more angry about it than, let's say, you were the first time. And then that could be confusing to the person you're saying it to, because then they might think like, oh, why are they so angry about this one thing? And then that'll just cause a whole nother level of tension.
I was just gonna say, like, just be when you do address it, definitely don't try to be angry though. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Where it's like
Yeah.
that, like you have to explain to them why you're mad. You know, you can't. They're not a mind reader.
And I think
So
that just goes back to like that communication is key. Like communicate with your roommates. Like you should be able to talk freely about what you want, what they want in a living situation. Don't wait for it to like bubble over until you're both kind of yelling at each other and not talking at all.
yeah, and don't just end it there. Don't just say like, "Oh, I want you to do this." Like, come to a conclusion. Like, is there a compromise? Are they gonna do it? Like, where does it stand? You know, you can't just yell and then walk away.
Yeah. I think it's also kind of important too, just for like you to know that it's like, oh, there's stuff that you could be doing that annoys your roommates as well. So
Yeah. So you want to make it comfortable so
Mhm.
that you both can talk.
So while you want to be able to communicate with your roommates to kind of fix these problems, but you also have to be open for them to communicate with you, because we all do things that annoy other people. You just kind of gotta work together and figure it out.
It's kind of interesting. It's like, was I an annoying roommate and they just never told me? I probably was.
I think it's just an awkward situation, because as much as I agree with what you're saying and I know how important communication is, I think it's a lot easier to sit here and say, well, you just need to have a conversation with them. But if it were kind
Yeah.
of you in that
Yeah.
situation, it's a lot harder to bring yourself to an uncomfortable place and open up to someone you don't really know.
Definitely. I think, like for me at least, I don't think I've had, out of my 3 different living arrangements in college so far, I don't think I've had like any roommates that I really had too much of a problem with. So like, do you guys have any like specific instances, I guess, of like
Well,
kind of
let me just start by saying that I don't think I don't think I've ever had a roommate so bad that I wasn't able to just bite my tongue. And it probably wasn't right to bite my tongue. I probably should have said something, but like they've been at least enough where I could myself deal with it. So, yeah, that's just
I
kind of my
think like my freshman year with my first roommate, like I don't think it wasn't a bad experience or anything. I mean, like we were not really like friends or anything, but I mean, it was cordial, I'd say. Like I feel like we both had similar like living
yeah.
habits slash patterns. I mean, again, maybe, I mean, sure there were small things that maybe annoyed me, and I'm sure the same could be said for my roommate, but I really didn't have any problems. It was pretty like civil. I mean, it's not like we were best friends, like let's watch a movie every night and cuddle, but it was bearable.
Yeah. Um
I think it definitely gets harder though when you throw more people in the mix. Like my sophomore year, but I guess we all lived with like 3 other roommates, and that I think complicates things a lot, especially when you have like more spaces, like a living room and a kitchen. There's just kind of like more area for disagreement, I guess.
Oh, yeah, now that you say that, I did have bad roommates my sophomore year because I
Yeah, I
forgot
was
about
gonna
those two.
say, didn't we all complain about our roommates sophomore
yeah,
year in some
but
form or
like
another?
I think okay, so just a little like background, I guess. It was basically like 2 bedrooms with 2 people in each bedroom. So I was friends with the person who was in my bedroom, but the 2 guys that were in the other bedroom, but we all shared the same apartment, they were the worst. But yeah.
were they the worst?
Okay,
They
maybe they
weren't
weren't
like
the
okay, they weren't bad people.
they weren't no,
Just
they were very nice, and they were very nice, I guess. But like
This
it
isn't
was
very convincing.
it just seemed a little it seemed they were a little oblivious sometimes to some things that I would consider a basic underlying like living rule.
yeah, like I don't think they were purposely being
Yeah,
inconsiderate. I
no,
think they were just
absolutely.
maybe used to living on their own and not used
Sure.
to
Yeah.
sharing such a
A
small
space, yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I guess no matter how many people you're living with, but especially if it is multiple people and you have more of like an apartment style with a kitchen and a living room, I guess it's definitely really important to kind of sit down with them in the beginning and go over some, I guess, like basic, I don't want to say rules because that kind of sounds really strict, but
But like
just things like
even the
just things
basic things are
like
important where you think like we talked about with our sophomore roommates, like you would think they would know not to do that, but it would
I mean,
just
yeah,
you should have just had that conversation.
you would think that. I think the issue is a lot of times people assume that, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they would know that this is my food, so they should ask
Shouldn't touch
before
it.
using it.
Yeah,
But I think
absolutely.
you'd be surprised with how many people maybe don't know that, weren't raised that way. They don't see a
Yeah.
problem with it. And I guess that's not necessarily like their fault, but when you
Yeah.
start to assume that other people have the same like ideas and as you, if you don't have a conversation, it can get
Mm-hmm.
kind of dicey. And I would also recommend when you do have that conversation, be honest, because I know my sophomore year, it it's definitely uncomfortable and awkward, and I'm not good in those situations. Like I'm definitely like, yeah, I'm okay with this when I'm really not, just because I don't
Yeah.
want to seem like uptight or I don't want to like ruin a relationship with these people before anything's even started. But
And
looking
I feel
back, I
like
definitely regret not being more honest.
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where it's probably annoying to bring it something up this month and then bring something up the next month. So like definitely just try and get it all out in the open in the beginning as soon as you can.
Yeah, especially because if you don't have that conversation, you can't expect them to do anything. Like
Yeah.
you have no right to get mad at them for doing something
Yeah.
if you've never told them that you don't like that thing.
Yeah.
So I guess like now that I've remembered, we've all had these kind of
I know
terrible.
I've like suppressed these memories now that we've like all been at home because of online school and everything. This is
Yeah.
like bringing up
No,
some
really, like
stuff.
I completely forgot about that one time.
I know, like I almost like feel myself getting like reliving it and like getting angry with these people all over again, even though I haven't seen them in like a year.
It seems like you have a lot more stories in terms of like your living arrangement than maybe me or
Yeah.
Evan do.
I don't feel like
Care
I have
to
stories. I feel like I
share?
definitely have just rules. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know what I want to say, I guess, because I don't want to like spend the whole time just bashing my roommates. And again, like I don't think that they were bad people by any means. I think it was just almost circumstantial because at this point, I was like doing an internship when we were rooming together. So I was going to bed a lot earlier, waking up a lot earlier, and they took classes. So it's not really like they had this strict of a schedule. So I think there were a lot of like circumstantial issues. But I don't want to like turn this into a bashing session or just complaining about these people. But I don't
Mhm.
know, I guess if there's some relevant stories, maybe they can be told later on.
I guess maybe after having these not so great living conditions, do you have any wisdom from these experiences that you'd like to share?
I feel like you're trying to get something out of me. Like you have it in your mind what you want me to say, but
I
you're
feel like
trying.
I feel like there's things you want to share, and I have my
I guess if we just want
opinions that I would share, but
to
I feel
go
like you
into
have to go first.
story time,
I love a
um,
good story time.
well, I guess my roommate issues were, well, this is like really weird, and I to this day still do not know what happened, but like at one point, like stuff just kept disappearing. Like I lost, well, I didn't lose. I think it got stolen, this like rubber spatula, and I really loved that. But then it got stolen. I never found it. And then one time I looked in my drawer and one of my like measuring cups was gone, and I was like, "Huh, that's weird. I didn't use it." I'm looking in the other people's cabinets. No one like accidentally took it. And like I had a waffle iron that just went missing. So, and it was like weird because stuff would just go missing and I have no idea what happened to it. And then I asked people and they were like, "No, I didn't take it." Well, then who did take
Yeah.
it? Did we have a burglary? And why is it only the kitchen items?
Yeah. So someone must have
Mhm.
been using it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I still never got that stuff back, and I don't think I ever will. But it was just weird because, like, why do you want a third cup measuring cup? Like, out of
Mhm.
And then
everything in this
Like,
apartment.
why wouldn't you use it and just put it back? You
it
know?
also get just maybe giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe maybe their parents were helping them pack and stuff, and they accidentally packed it thinking it was theirs.
I don't know, but it was weird because you would have to, like, go inside a drawer, and we all
Take
kind of
the
had, like,
one thing.
assigned
Yeah.
drawers. And especially something like a measuring cup, you're gonna take one cup, not the whole
Yeah.
set.
Yeah.
And it was, I feel like there was something weird going on because one of my roommates, when I asked her, "Do you know where this is?" She said, "No, I don't." But one of the roommates who lived here last year with me had left some stuff, and I let her in so she could come back and pick up her stuff. And my roommate never told us about this, so which I was kind of not happy about. You're gonna let some person we don't know back in our apartment when all of our stuff is in here. I'm not saying that she was gonna steal stuff, but she could have taken anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I didn't love that. But then and then I had to track down that girl who came in to take her stuff back. And she was like, "No, I didn't take it." So I don't really know what the other explanation is.
It must have been a burglary in this very high security apartment
Yeah.
building.
Always keep your doors locked.
Yeah, keep your doors locked.
That's
Not really
universal.
roommate.
I don't
Yeah,
know. Can we all just agree? Lock your door.
not roommate
Yeah.
related, but lock your doors.
I mean, it is though, because some roommates just don't do
Yeah,
that.
and one of my roommates, she would just leave and not never lock the door.
Yeah.
And
No,
we would
lock
tell her,
it.
like, "Please lock the door." Like, it's not just we have stuff in there too that we don't want stolen, or we don't want someone just coming into our room, but she
Yeah.
just wouldn't lock the door.
No,
Mhm.
absolutely lock it.
Definitely lock the door when everyone's gone, and maybe at night too. Lock it. I didn't figure. Me personally, I didn't figure that one out till much later than I should have. But lock your door at night too.
Why? What happened at
Yeah.
night?
Did something happen?
I don't think anything in particular happened, but then it's just kind of a realization where it's like, oh well, just because we're sleeping doesn't mean someone still can't come in.
Well, I know a friend who like this is kind of like a friend of a friend story, but this guy, I guess, like went out to a party or something, and then he came back and he went to the same like room number he was, but the floor up, and he like walked into this random apartment that he thought was his, got in someone's bed, and then woke up the next morning and realized this is not my room.
I
So
have.
lock your doors.
This is a friend of a friend story too, kind of related. So I think this happened freshman year. This happened at another school too. This wasn't even our school, but one of my friends lived in just a normal residence hall dormitory, and it was a Saturday night, I want to say. So a lot of parties were going on. They said that like at maybe like 2, 3 a.m. or so, this girl walked into their door, which they did not lock, and then she just started like peeing on like their floor. So lock your doors. Moral of the story.
Yeah, especially in the dorms, everyone's way too close together, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of room for mishaps.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I guess next, another important thing to consider, which I guess kind of goes along with communication, but just even before you have any conversations with anyone, I think it's important for you to take a moment with yourself and just think about what your personal boundaries would be, because that's going to be different for everyone. Things like how much alone time you need, if you're comfortable with significant others sleeping over, I guess if you're comfortable sharing items, just things like that. Because I think if you don't know what you're comfortable with, then it's harder to express your feelings and needs.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, at least, I'm not sure if you guys would agree with this, but in my case, like freshman year, the first time we had to kind of figure out that, I didn't really know what I liked in terms of
Yeah.
stuff like that. Because until then, I'd lived at home with my family like every year, the first 18 years of my life. So I think for me, going into it freshman year, I was a little kind of like, well, I think I like this, but I don't really know. But I think a good way to kind of figure that out, especially freshman year when most colleges have access to these, or most students in dorms would have access to this. But if you do have any roommate problems like that, obviously talk to your roommate first. But also, your RA is a really good kind of resource and mitigator for that, I'd say. They're kind of trained in like kind of dealing with roommate conflict and things like that. So if let's say you do have some issues that are literal like irreparable and you just kind of can't get past them, I would definitely talk to your RA.
I also think I just think this topic is kind of difficult because there's so many different scenarios. I think also dorms have a lot more rules and regulations than if you were just living off campus. Like I know dorms are more strict about how many overnight visitors you can have, and they have a really strict like no drinking, no drugs, whatever policy. So the rules are really cut and dry there, and I guess if you do stray from the rules, there's more of a consequence than if you're just renting a place with people. There's no one to step in and be the person to enforce rules. So I guess it just kind of depends on the situation, but in either case, it's still really important.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know like my
I mean,
sophomore year, go
I would
ahead.
never talk to my RA, and I kind of not like regret it, but definitely should have like maybe used that more, you know?
Yeah, again, I think it's a hard situation because you don't really want to be seen as a tattletale. Like, let me
Yeah,
go run to the RA and
sure. Yeah.
go cry and then have the RA come back. And
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's awkward. And at that age, I think you also kind of feel like you want to be a little bit more independent and not have to run to someone to solve your
Yeah,
problems.
sure. Yeah.
But I guess in terms of boundaries, like my sophomore year, I had a roommate whose boyfriend stayed over like every single night, and we shared the same bedroom too. So it's like all three of us were sleeping together every single night in the same room, obviously, not in the same bed. But
I was like, this is a little inappropriate for this
you
podcast.
guys know what I mean. But I guess in the beginning, I didn't really say a whole lot just because I don't know, I'm not the greatest at like confrontation or like expressing my needs in general. I don't really like situations like that. So I just kind of went along with it, and I think I secretly hoped like, oh, maybe she'll kind of see this isn't working out, or maybe she'll change, or maybe they will decide this isn't appropriate or something. So I think by me not establishing that boundary, it probably led her to believe that what she was doing was something I was comfortable with. And it honestly just caused a lot of suffering on my end because I had to put up with something that probably could have been avoided if I had just said it in the beginning.
Can I just say that if you're gonna have a significant other over, I mean, that really depends on like what you guys talked about, of course, but just a general rule is like, please introduce them. Like, it's weird if I'm sitting there on the couch and they're sitting there and it's like, I don't know their name and they're there a lot. Like, can you just break that tension a little bit for me? Can you just say your name or something?
Yeah, I think significant others are
We don't have to be
just,
best friends, but yeah.
I think it's just a really dicey situation. And it's even more awkward because in my case, it's not like I really knew this significant other at all, never really introduced. It was just like, I guess I'm third wheeling even though I don't even know these people.
Yeah, and
It
we're
was
like
just like
sharing a
weird. And again,
bathroom. Like,
yeah, and
like,
that's the other thing. Like at some point, the significant other started like showering there, and I was like, this is kind of a little too much for my comfort, at least. But
yeah. So
I don't
definitely,
know.
definitely work out those rules, but like, still, please just like,
But I
I don't
also
know
feel
this
like
person.
even if someone doesn't explicitly say, like if Evan, you and I were roommates, if I had a significant other over every single night, even if you didn't explicitly say, I don't want them here every single night, like I feel like you should have some sort of common courtesy. Like, in what
Well,
world would you think it's
I've
okay
I've
to
really
have someone
learned
over?
I've really learned with roommates they can't expect anything
yeah,
from
I was
them.
just gonna say that.
Yeah,
Like,
I know you
that's what
can't
we just
expect
talked about.
anything.
Like, they just might not even think of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like, how do you not think of this? We're literally sharing the same room. Like, if you had your own bedroom, maybe that's one thing.
Yeah.
But like to have someone sleep over 7 days a week, it's like I'm getting changed in the morning and he's in the bed right by my closet.
I mean, I think the thing for me is like the rent. Like, we're paying rent and he's
I
showering here.
know you're
That's
not
just the
paying
weird
any
part.
rent and you are here more than I am. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
understand that. I'm not saying that it's all the roommate's fault. I'm sure my lack of communication definitely propelled that situation to a point where it got uncomfortable. But I also just think, like, how could you be so like clueless to not think that there was a problem with it,
Sure.
unless you were just like taking advantage of the situation or something. I'm not saying that that's what it was, but at least in my mind, I just don't understand how people can see that things are not
Yeah.
appropriate.
Another thing I wanted to talk about was like space and like it's one thing to be messy, but I mean, you just have to understand that like we're both here, so like it should be pretty even, you know. Like don't claim that spot as your dirty laundry spot. Like, I, you know, or don't leave your sweatshirt on the couch. Like, can you?
Like you can
Yeah,
be
It's
dirty,
not
but
just
keep
about
your dirt to your
It's not
you
section.
about
guys
the
had a lot of
mess. It's
problems with
just about
this.
like like it makes it hard for me to use the common areas and things like that when your stuff is in the way.
Like my sophomore year, I never used our like common area or things like that just because their stuff was always
Yeah.
everywhere. There were always like dirty dishes filled up to the top of the sink. It was always kind of a mess, and it was just kind of annoying to have to deal with that.
It's not just that I don't want to clean up your mess. It's just I it feels like they've claimed it to be theirs. And
Yeah,
it's
that's
like I
exactly what
shouldn't
I was
have
gonna say.
like where's my sink then, you know? Like
Yeah, I guess think there's only one, but like my roommates, two of them would always put their jackets on. We had like 4 bar stools attached to an island, and they'd put their jackets and their book bags on it. So it's like
sure.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
move it, so I
I don't
guess
like
I have to
yeah.
sit somewhere else now. I guess this is your spot.
Yeah,
Where am I
absolutely.
supposed to
That's a great
eat?
example of like that's not a mess, but it's like yeah, I feel bad moving your stuff. So it's like what am I supposed
But
to
it's
do?
also like,
Yeah.
why is this jacket here
Why-
24/7?
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
I've never seen you wear the jacket. Why is it
Yeah.
just sitting
It
here?
just sits there. Yeah.
I think I don't want to focus too much on this because this is only for like some cases more when you're like an upperclassman and like kind of living on your own out of the off-campus stuff. But if you're living with roommates and you're kind of doing it through a third party, not necessarily through your college or university, make sure you trust them to pay rent.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Good
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Because like when it comes to that, like it's not like you each have like your own individual lease or things like that, or it's like you're paying through a school portal.
Yeah.
Normally it's like there's just one bill and
And
you
if-
have to rely on each other to all pay your portions of it. So just
And
make
if
sure
they
that
don't
you
pay it, it's not
Yeah.
it's not like they're accountable. You're all accountable.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
landlord's gonna request the money some way or another.
So just make sure, obviously this is much later in a college experience or adulthood or whatever, things like that. But just make sure that you trust your roommates. Don't just choose your roommates and, oh, I'm friends with them, so I'm in a
Yeah.
room with them. Like make sure there's that factor, but also that you trust them to follow through and kind of follow all these unspoken rules and pay rent, things like that.
Do you have anything to say about that like not anecdote, but whatever it's like, oh, don't live with your friends. You know, how they always say that. And it's like, I don't think that's true. You can live with your friend.
I
You
think
know?
it just depends on the people. I don't know. I've never really like lived off campus with friends. So I don't know that I've experienced it firsthand, but I mean, we've all heard the stories of like friend groups moving in and then they hate each other by the end. I think it just depends on the people.
I know
And
one of my friends who goes to the same college as us. She ended up living with kind of some friends one year, and I think it was like 6 of them.
Oh,
By like 2 months in, they were all fighting over just
Well,
like stupid things
sure.
like
that's a
that.
big number too, 6
yeah, I was
people.
gonna
It's a
say
lot
that's a
of
big
people.
number. Yeah.
But
I'm
what
like
do you
thinking,
it would
I'm
be like
thinking-
one person stealing the toilet paper, so no one else had
Yeah.
toilet paper.
Yeah.
Someone else took the microwave into their bedroom. Like, it was a whole
What?
debacle.
Yeah, that just seems weird.
Well,
I
what
mean,
do you guys think the ideal number of roommates is?
I think 3 or 4 is good.
I was gonna say 2 or 3. I think
Okay.
4 might be dicing it a little bit.
I think also it depends on if it's a thing where it's like you're splitting rent and how much space you have.
Sure, yeah. Really, yeah, that's a good point. Depends on where you're living and like
Yeah, there's a lot of factors.
how much
I
you're
think
getting for that budget and stuff.
I think
yeah.
I would agree though that it's 2 to 3 in a perfect cost isn't an issue world.
Sure, yeah.
I think my ideal would be if I just had one other person who I trusted and was friendly with. Like that would be my ideal situation. I'm not alone, but I don't have to deal with like too much
Mhm.
traffic and get into all these kind of disputes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like that was the nice thing I think for my sophomore year living arrangement, because for some stuff that kind of happened, I ended up being the only person who lived there for like 3 months out of the 4 of us. And like, sure, it was lonely, but it was also really nice kind of just like living by myself, I guess,
Yeah.
in that big space.
And I think with a smaller number of people, you'll get more alone time of just you because other people will be in class or doing something else.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have like 6 people, I feel like it would feel like every day is a social event. And
Yeah.
for me
And it's-
personally, like I need my alone time.
I was gonna say like you probably couldn't ever sit in the living room and just be yourself. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like the common area would be the common area.
I think that also too, like, sure, we're saying this number, but it also depends on like who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Like,
And it
I think
depends
compared to
on the
you two,
dynamic of the
Yeah.
group.
like compared
Yeah.
to you two, I'd say that I'm a little more so like I need a little bit more social.
I was gonna say
Just
he's
to-
a little more social.
No, I just say for you guys like
You
your alone
can't take
time.
that back. You
You
said
guys
it.
like your
You
alone
can't
time.
take it back.
I don't really. Alone time's whatever. I enjoy more people, so I think really it's kind of finding out who you are as like yourself and what you like.
Yeah, some people do like more people in the house and do like to be more social, as Dan put it.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could be great friends and have a ton in common, but like how you live could be completely different. So
Mhm.
you just need to make sure you're on the same page.
You got to find that balance with
Yeah.
all those kind of factors.
Yeah. And if you are living with someone and maybe you're not the best of friends, but like you do live together great, that's fine. Like stick with that. I don't think that's anything bad
Yeah,
either.
I would almost rather have someone who had like a similar habit level of like cleanliness routine than me than someone I was really close with,
Yeah.
but maybe they were too messy or too loud. I think there's a lot of pressure to be good friends with your roommate because I know freshman year coming in, I was like, this is going to be great. We're going to be best friends. We're going to give each other mani-pedis. We're going to watch movies every night, which was probably honestly unrealistic and not really fair to someone else to have to live up to like some standard I created. But I definitely think like if you're not really friends with your roommate, that's fine too. I think is if you can
As
make
long as you can
it
respect each other and respect like the living arrangement and not kind of cross these boundaries and kind of rules that you decide amongst yourselves, then I think that that's just as good a situation as, or even better maybe, than living with a friend.
Can we
yeah,
go ahead?
I would say living style is I don't want to say it's more important than like how well you get along with someone because obviously like it's not fun to have a roommate that hates you, but I guess it is important to find someone who has a similar lifestyle to you.
Because you're going to see your friends regardless. So for things like where you live and where you sleep, make sure you're comfortable with that and you like the arrangement.
I think it would be hard if I lived with my friends. Like freshman year, I feel like I didn't get that much done because all my friends were
Sure.
10 feet
yeah.
down the hall and we would play up. We watched Lost instead of studying for our midterms.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean,
And I
know.
also think that, like, as we've said before many times on this podcast, I like my alone time. And I think I definitely suffered in that I felt a pressure to like hang out, or someone would come in my
Yeah.
room and I'd be like, oh, I guess I have to hang out now. I kind of just wanted to be alone. So it was, I don't want to say it wasn't fair to myself, but I guess that wasn't a boundary. I sat with myself. I think this podcast is just making me realize that I'm not good at being roommates. Because
honestly,
I
you'd
got-
be the ideal roommate because you'd keep to yourself and like, you know, everything like that. I don't know. So I was gonna say, can we like rapid fire some tips or something like that for the end? Because I know there's things that I still want to say, but like we don't need to have a discussion.
like more specifics.
Yeah, just like do this, do this, do this.
Okay, then you started off because
Okay,
I
so
don't know
wear
that I'm
headphones.
sure.
Wear
Oh.
headphones, please.
Yeah.
Take out the trash when it's overfilling. Don't wait for someone else to do it.
Yes.
If you have like common items that you share, like a water pitcher, fill it up if you're the last
Oh my
person to
gosh.
use it. It's not that hard to fill it up. Please fill it up. Don't leave it for the
please.
next person.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say wash the dishes. Like maybe this is your preference and you think you're all on the same page, but like please just wash it, okay? Wash
Don't
it, put it in
hog-
the dishwasher. It can stay there forever. I don't care. But like out of the sink.
Don't hog all the space. Make sure it's evenly distributed, or you guys talk about it beforehand.
Yeah.
Um
Ooh, she's
no, I got one. Replace the toilet paper roll if you're the last person to use it.
I was gonna
I've
say
had a lot of times where there was nothing left and I was starting the toilet and I was stranded.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think everyone's probably been there, but I was gonna say work out a bathroom schedule. Like if you need it at 6 o'clock, let me know because
Like for
we-
showering and
yeah,
stuff.
like we gotta it's only one bathroom. We gotta share it. So just
Honestly, one of the
communicate
best
with
things that I did with my sophomore year roommate was like a
Yeah.
bathroom schedule.
mhm. I'm trying to think
Let
if there's
your
anything else.
roommates know if you're having someone over. Just let them know. It's so simple to say, hey, I'm having someone over tonight.
Yeah.
You don't even have to ask for their permission, but just let them know.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't walk in and find someone's cousin there playing Super Smash until midnight.
If you're burning something, open up a window. Don't just let
Like
it
burning food
fester.
or burning
like,
a candle.
deal with it, please.
Yeah, don't let my specific apartment fill with smoke for hours, and then I open my bedroom door and I'm basically
Yeah.
hit with all of these fumes.
Clean up the stove. Like if you're gonna be large frying up this bacon in batches,
If you're
please
using-
wipe down the stove.
We've gone
If you're
into really
using-
specific
I
examples.
know.
I was gonna say if you're using the microwave, put the cover on it or something.
Yeah,
Or
or
if you're gonna
have,
get a mess in the like clean it up. Just
I
clean it.
know, like when people eat like what's it called, tomato sauce, and it splatters
What?
everywhere. That's never
pretty
happened?
Specific. I can't say that's happened to me.
Well, I know like that has happened to me. Like at my house, you have like certain things like splatter a lot,
Like,
and my mom always like yells at us to clean it up.
like I'll admit that I'm definitely guilty of that at my apartment now because I don't own a cover, but at my house, like I own the microwave cover.
This is more just me, but like if you don't want to take your shoes off, fine. But like in my section, take your shoes off. That's it. Like in my room, don't stand at my bed. Don't sit on my bed. Oh my god, that's just me too, really. But
Especially not with day clothes on.
yeah, not with your day clothes on.
Yeah, we already said wear headphones. That's a
Yeah.
big one.
I don't think there's anything
Yeah.
else super general like that.
Didn't your roommates like blast stuff 24/7?
Yeah. That's okay.
That's
They were
okay.
nice people.
Yeah, you'll
We
live
should
in
have said
love.
something. So yeah, communication is key.
Or if you want to listen to it out loud, fine. But like, there's a time of day. You're not 7 in the morning. You know, just like
Or not late at night?
yeah, figure that out. Yeah. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like we could all probably go on about this, but I think for our sake and for the listeners' sake, we should just
we
put
should
a pin
drop
in
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys we probably have so many more stories about roommates. So if you guys like want to hear some more stories or us to partake on some or give some wisdom in this topic, feel free to let us know. All of our stuff is linked in the description.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this week's episode.
Be sure to like and follow our podcast on whatever platform you're currently listening to it on.
Check out our social media linked in the description and tune in next week for even more advice.
TTYL.
From IFL.
Bye!